Now to our next conversation on the cholera outbreak in Nigeria. Let's appraise how best to roll back the tide, I beg your pardon, from vaccination campaigns to water sanitation initiatives. The strategies being deployed to combat the lingering cholera outbreak in parts of the country are in focus and are now being scrutinized. Latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control indicate that the disease has so far claimed 30 lives across 30 states. Well, it's the number of suspected cases are not definitive at this point, but we hear it's over 1,000 already. 65 of them confirmed, with 15 states said to be contributing mostly to the suspected projected figure of that's the suspected cases. My guest is Dr. Isaac Igboaja. Is that correct? Igboaja. Doc, did I get that correctly?
Yes, Isaac Igboaja.
Dr. Igboaja was with the UN for a considerable length of time. He's a public health specialist with specialty, I beg your pardon, in community health. Welcome to the program, Doc. Doc used to be a regular on Insight. We've not seen him for some time. It's good to have you back here.
My pleasure. It's good to be here.
Great. So, Doc, it's a fact that cholera occurs in Nigeria all year round. It's also a fact that it is closely linked with poor personal and environmental sanitation, also food hygiene and contaminated water. Does it therefore suffice to say that that cholera, or rather that the poor are most vulnerable and face the most risks when it comes to the issue of cholera in Nigeria? Do you have an idea of the national risk assessment, as it were, and does the trend give credence or lend credence to that analogy of cholera being a poor man's disease? Where do we truly stand?
Well, it is possible that poor people are more prone or are more at risk, but nobody is free of the disease. If you are the richest person and you are not keeping yourself clean and you don't observe personal hygiene or environmental hygiene and sanitation, you are also prone and at risk of cholera.
So what do we know of the incidence rates? I tried to get a definitive
Generally,
figure.
let me explain this. Generally, these kinds of diseases that have to do with behavior, that have to do with personal hygiene, that have to do with environmental hygiene and sanitation, poor people are more prone because they live in rural areas, they live in very unhygienic conditions, they eat just what they can find. Take food, for example. A rich man will not stop by the side of the road and buy mama put and eat. But a poor person would buy just anything that he can find that is called food, just to survive. You also notice that these days there are hawkers selling salads, selling pop-off, selling biscuits, selling fried fish, selling any kind of food that you can possibly think of. All over the place. And those who buy them are the people who are poor, who are in working places, mechanic villages, buildings, construction sites, all kinds of places where you find low-income people. And usually these foods are also cheaper and therefore are more affordable by poor people. You know, that is the reason why we say that whatever you do, it doesn't matter whether you're a rich person or a poor person, but because the poor people are more particularly at risk, they should try to observe personal hygiene. Personal hygiene here we mean they wash their hands frequently. You don't have to go to the toilet before you wash your hands. And before you eat anything, wash your hands. After you eat something, wash your hands. Check what you eat. Make sure that if it is raw food, fruits, vegetables, whatever that is raw that you are going to eat, make sure that it is clean. Make sure that if it is washable, you wash it. When I say washable, if it is fruits, for example, carrots, bananas, all kinds of fruits that are available should be washed. But there are also things that poor people eat all the time, biscuits and pop-off and dry fish and so on and so forth. You may not be able to wash those. But what you can do is to make sure that they are clean. make sure that if you need to boil them, you reboil them or heat them before you eat them.
Doc, you know, when you said poor people, you mentioned a couple of places where poor people buy foods and the kind of foods that they buy. Someone said something, my director actually said something in my ears. And he said, Dr. Abuja is referring to the bulk or majority of Nigerians. And I felt that's something to say, really, because if we were to go by the indices of poor persons or persons living below the poverty line, you would agree with me or with my director that you're talking about a greater majority of Nigerians there. And when you also referenced the issue of washing of hands and all of that, I also reckon there's a proper way to wash our hands. Otherwise, do you mean I just go to like the tap, take a scoop of water, wash or perhaps just rinse my hands and that's proper washing?
Okay, let me answer your first question. Yes, the greater proportion of Nigerians are at risk. In fact, it is only very few Nigerians that are really rich people, for example, that always drink bottled water. Always. Majority of Nigerians drink the water that they get, the water that they can find, including pure water. What you call pure water, there's nothing that guarantees that it is pure.
It is pure.
In fact, many of the pure water sachets, when tested, have bacteria in them. And those are the type of foods and water or consumables that most Nigerians take. As a matter of fact, more than 70 or 75% of Nigerians are at risk, are poor. It's not only 50%, it's more than that. But let me come to the second question that you asked, and that is about the environment, right?
The proper way to wash your hands.
The
when
proper
you
way,
referenced
yes. Okay, personal hygiene. Personal hygiene.
Personal hygiene.
Yes,
basically.
the proper way to wash hands actually is to turn on the tap, or if it is not the tap, if it is water that you are using to wash your hands, let somebody else hold the water for you, and you put your hands below the water, and you wash while they pour the water in your hands, so that whatever we are washing goes down. That is the proper way to wash hands. Sometimes people fetch a little bowl of water, put it beside them or in front of them, and just dip their hands inside and squeeze their fingers, run their fingers against each other, and consider that as hands being washed. No, that is not proper washing of hands. If, for example, my hands are contaminated with this bacteria, Vibrio cholerae, that causes cholera, and I just take a bowl of water, little bowl of water, and I put my hands inside and just wash, just rub my fingers against each other, and I take it out and start eating. I'm not clean. My hands are not clean. That's not hygienic. Why? Because if there was bacteria in my hand and I dip it into the water and I rub my fingers, I'm only circulating the bacteria inside the water. And when I take my hands from that water, I'm taking it with the bacteria still. And if I use it to eat, I'm still contaminated. Or the possibility of the food or myself being contaminated directly is still high. So that's not washing of hands, good washing of hands. Good washing of hands, if it is a tap, you turn on the tap, put your hands below it, take soap and rub your hands against each other, and make sure that the water that comes from the process of washing goes down below you and is discarded.
And where you don't have running water, you could also get someone to help you with the scoop and then pour the water on.
Exactly.
While,
you put your hands and let the water be above your hand,
yes,
and they pour it and you wash. If you don't have soap, good washing of hands should be with soap. But if you don't have soap, you can use ash. I'm talking of extreme conditions.
Okay.
In the rural areas, there are many times when people don't have soap.
Yes.
In rural areas, and I'm being practical. I'm not making this
Why
as a
is
conventional
ash
advice.
better or more effective than even sand? I see in some places in rural areas, you see people put their hands on the floor,
No.
you know, and then use the sand from the floor to also wash.
No.
They think that's also effective.
No, that's not effective. Because that's even the habitation, the medium of the transmission. That's where bacteria stay. Ash is good for washing hands in rural areas and in extreme conditions where you don't have soap. And you can use that to rub your hands and then you wash. Great. And make sure that whatever you are doing, the water that you use to wash goes down and you don't contaminate yourself back with the same water. That's very key. That's very important. But let me emphasize here.
Yes, please, go ahead.
In Nigeria, there are many people that use the toilet and use water to clean themselves. They don't use toilet paper. They use water. This is where we have serious problem, very serious problem. Because if you use water to clean yourself, one, you must not use both hands at the same time. If you must have to clean yourself with this process or with this method, use your left hand to clean yourself and use your right hand as the clean one to fetch the water that you need. And when you do, make sure that that left hand is properly cleaned. I mean properly washed. Make sure too that you cut your fingernails to the level that there is nothing where, or there's no space where anything can hide between the nail and your skin. Cut them very well, and make sure that your hands are generally clean. I'm saying this because this is a situation where we must have to deal with, not because it is good, not because I recommend it, but because there is no option. There are still a good number of Nigerians who use water to clean themselves when they use the toilet.
And I like that you're very realistic.
And this is where the problem really lies. True. Ordinarily, you should never use your hands to touch your anus. No, your hands must never come in contact with the feces that when you defecate. Defecation should be straight to the hole, straight to the toilet, and when it is flushed, it is gone. You must not touch it. But since it is a practice that people do this, I'm saying this so that we can make the best out of a bad situation. And also, there are babies, when they defecate, their mothers have to wash them. And mothers use their hands to wash the anus of the babies. If you do this, make sure that after that, you have running water, either a tap or somebody else holds water above your hands, and make sure that you wash your hands properly with soap and clean water. I mentioned use of ash a little while ago. Another thing that you can also use to wash your hands is salt. You can take some salt and rub it against your hands very well, very, very well, and then pour water. Or you can put plenty of salt in water and use that water to wash your hands. These are situations that are possible when you are practically deprived of the norm, of the regular means, or the conventional means of washing your hands or keeping your hands clean. Let me emphasize over and over again, we need this personal hygiene. Some people don't wash their clothes. Some people wear the same clothes over and over every day. You must make sure that you wash your clothes, especially when you sweat. You must not wear clothes, sweat in them, hang them, and then rewear them unwashed. And this is also a time for the big people that you talked about to keep good watch and supervise the house helps, the house cooks, the housemaids that they have in their houses. Many of these people that cook for us are sometimes not clean themselves. They don't wash their hands. They don't keep themselves clean enough. And we should check this so that we make sure that they don't contaminate the water and the food that we eat. What good does it do for you if you keep yourself clean, you wash your hands, you drink clean water, but the person who cooks for you cooks with dirty hands and contaminates the food before it's given to you to eat.
Doc,
When you eat that food, you are at risk as much as anybody else.
Yes, I appreciate all you've said in terms of mitigating preventive measures. And I mean, these are things, realistic issues, things that are obtainable in our society. And I like that you've raised them and the approach you've also used in advising, Nigerians generally to take precautions or, measures to take in order to help stem the current tide of cholera in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Dr. Isaac Eboaja, the public health specialist. He was also with the UN for a considerable length of time. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the program to talk about this very important issue.
My pleasure.